Okay, so we are on Yud Gimel, Amud Aleph, and we ended yesterday by talking about Rebbe, and Rebbe holds that their Yom Kippur will be mechaper even if you don't do tshuva, and that was a big chiddush. Yom Kippur will be mechaper even without tshuva. And we saw that there's only three sins that Yom Kippur will not be mechaper for without tshuva, and that's if you're porek ol. Basically, you're kofar be'ikar, you don't believe in God, or in the basics of the Torah, in Torah Shabbat Peh, in Torah Misina, you begala panim b'Torah, like he quotes Menashe. Rashi says that he used to go ahead and you'd basically be haughty versus the Torah and always look for problems, etc. Umefer bris bibasar, and you don't have a bris milah, which also happens to be, parenthetically, one of the two that you're going to be chayav kares for. There's two mitzvahs that says that you're chayav kares for not doing. Para, the Korban Pesach, and bris milah. My time at the Rebbe. So what's the reason for Rebbe? We are on the seventh line on Yud Gimel Vav. What's the reason for Rebbe that Yom Kippur will be mechaper even if you don't do tshuva? The Tanya, because it says Ki Devar Hashem Bazah, because you're mevazeh Hashem, the Devar Hashem. What's that? Zeha Porek O Umegale Panim BaTorah, and then the pasuk says Ve'es Mitzvato Hefer or Hefar. That is Hamefer Bris Bebasar. So those three things are included in that pasuk. And what's the next words? Hikares, tikares. Hikares lifnei Yom Kippurim. Tikares la'achar Yom Kippurim. You'll have kares before Yom Kippur comes, and even after Yom Kippur, you'll have kares because Yom Kippur will not be mechaper for these three. But what does that assume? That implies that for everything else, Yom Kippur will be mechaper even if you go ahead and you don't do tshuva. Yachal afilu asa tshuva. So you might think that Yom Kippur will not be mechaper for these big three, even if you do tshuva. Talmud Lomar, the end of the pasuk says, Tikares hanevashahi avonaba. You have the sin. Lo amarti ela bizman shavonaba. It means as long as you keep the sin, that's when you'll get kares. So again, in general, Yom Kippur is mechaper for all the sins. Yom Kippur atones for all sins, except for three sins, which Yom Kippur itself will not be mechaper for, which you need tshuva for as well. And when it says hikaret, that means that even after Yom Kippur, if you don't do tshuva, you will not be mechaper for these three sins. But we see avonah ba that it's only if you don't do tshuva. But if you do tshuva, then you will get kapara even for these three sins. V'Rabbanan, what are the Rabbanan going to say? The Rabbanan say that even if you do, the Rabbanan are going to say that even if you don't do tshuva, you're going to get kares. V'Rabbanan, what does it mean? Hikaret ba'olam hazet, hikaret la'olam haba. That means that hikaret is in this world. Tikaret is in the next world. That means it's not just that if you do tshuva and if you don't do tshuva. No, according to the Rebbe, if you don't do tshuva, then you're going to have kares. But if you do tshuva, you will. But according to the Rabbanan, hikares ba'olam hazet, hikares olam haba. It means you're going to get kares in this world and you're going to get kares in the next world. It means according to them, if you don't do tshuva, so you're going to go ahead and of course you're going to be punished. You're going to be punished for any sin without doing tshuva. Right? The question is, what's the chiddush of hikares, tikares? According to Rebbe, the chiddush is hikares. You don't need that because, well, you need it because hikares. Otherwise, you would be forgiven. So hikares is telling me that in these three, you will not be forgiven on Yom Kippur. Comes along the Rabbanan who don't need hikares over here because every single sin you're still going to get punished after Yom Kippur if you don't do tshuva. So what's the chiddush here of hikares? You're going to get kares. Every sin I'm going to get kares if I don't do tshuva. Hikares. In this case, if you don't do tshuva, not only are you going to be punished for this sin like every other avera, these three sins you're going to get kares. You're going to get cut off of the next world as well. That's the chiddush. Avonah ba, but Avonah ba teaches us masa tshuva v'meis misa mimarakes. That if you do tshuva and you die, then misa mimarakes. So it sounds like, again, if you don't do tshuva for these three sins and you die for regular sin, if you don't do tshuva and you die, then it's going to be basically mechaper. For these three sins, according to the Rabbanan, if you don't do tshuva and you die, then even misa will not be mimarekes. You'll have kares olam haba. If you do tshuva, then when you die, you'll have a total atonement even for these three sins. And then the question becomes, can we really establish it like Rebbe? You want to establish that this is Rebbe. The problem is that, again, we're talking about our sins. We're talking about our Mishnah. The problem is we're talking about the Reisha of our Mishnah, but in the Seifa of that very same Mishnah, if you want to establish the Reisha as being Rebbe, as saying that what? As saying that you're going to go ahead, because again, the whole discussion started with with our Mishnah, Al Shara Ve'er Shabbat Torah, Akalos, V'Achamuros, Adzonos. If you want to establish that as being Rebbe, and as saying that for all sins you will be forgiven on Yom Kippur, even if you don't do tshuva, except for 3, which is separate. The problem is that if Hamid the Sefer Rabbi Yehuda, he Reisha Nami Rabbi Yehuda. The problem is that the Sefer is Rabbi Yehuda who argues on Rabbi. Diktani Sefer, the Sefer says, Echad Yisrael ve'echad Kohanim ve'echad Kohen Mashuach, Uman Islay Haisvara Rabbi Yehuda. The Sefer, as we're going to discuss a little bit more today, says that everybody, the Jewish people, and the Kohanim, and the Levim, everybody is mechaper for all of the other Averos besides for being Mitame, the Mikdash, and the Kachav, as you remember maybe, on Beis and Beis. Everybody agrees that you're going to, within Rabbi Yehuda, everyone is going to be mechaper for all other Averos from the Sar HaMishalech. And we'll discuss this more today. But again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Sar HaMishtalech, the one that is sent out, Lazaza, will be mechaper for all of the sins, for all of the Jewish people, and for the Kohanim, for all of the sins except for Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav. Tumas Mikdash V'Kadashav, there'll be a difference. The Kohanim will be mechaper by the par of the Kohen Gadol, and the Jewish people will be mechaper with the Sa'ir Pnimi Shel Yom Kippur. But that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. So if that's Rabbi Yehuda, Miklal de Reisha Rabbi Yehuda, that implies that the Reisha is Rabbi Yehuda as well. And if the Reisha is Rabbi Yehuda, then it's not Rabbi. And if it's not Rabbi, so then what are we talking about here? We just want to establish the Reisha as being Rabbi. Says the Gemara, Am Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi he, v'savar la Rabbi Yehuda. No, the Reisha is Rabbi, which means that Rabbi Reisha is Rabbi that, at the end of the day, again, Rabbi says Yom Kippur will be mechaper even if you don't do tshuva. The Seifa, which is Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi agrees with Rabbi Yehuda. So the Seifa is Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda, and now the Reisha could be either Rabbi or Rabbi Yehuda. It was only a problem when the Seifa was only Rabbi Yehuda, then it would be hard to say that the Reisha is Rabbi. But if the Seifa is Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda, because they agree with each other, then the Reisha could be either one of them. Says the Gemara, Amalei Abai, Dafka Kamar Mar. So now the question is, Dafka Kamar Mar. Rabbi Savar La to Rabbi Yehuda. You're telling me that Rabbi holds like Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore the Seifa is Rabbi / Rabbi Yehuda, and the Reisha is Rabbi. The question becomes, if I like you, does that automatically mean that you like me? If Rabbi paskins like Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemara wants to know, does that mean now, if Rabbi paskins like Rabbi Yehuda in terms of the kapara of the Sar Mishtaleach, etc., does that mean that Rabbi Yehuda agrees with Rabbi that Yom Kippur will be mechaper for all sins, even without tshuva? So is it Rabbi Savar La Rabbi Yehuda, Val Rabbi Yehuda Lo Savar La Rabbi? Oh, Dilma, mi de Rabbi Savarlak Rabbi Yehuda. If I like you, Af Rabbi Yehuda Savarla Nami Rabbi, like politicians, I'll help you, you help me. Miu Orcha Demilsa Gatani Lememar Detamit Savarlak Rabbi. Maybe they're going to go ahead and they're going to like each other, and the reason that it shows Rabbi Yehuda here, and the reason that it shows Rabbi is because it wanted to tell you that he holds like his Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, that he holds like, or Dil Rabbi Yehuda Nami Rabbi Savarla, Masnisan Rabbi Yehuda Nami, v'haidelo amar Rabbi Yehuda he v'savala Rabbi. Right. The reason that it's quoted Rabbi is because Rabbi was the student of Rabbi Yehuda, and it's more important to quote the Rabbi, to quote the student passing like the Rabbi, than the Rabbi passing like the student. Amarle in dafka kamina Rabbi savala Rabbi Yehuda val Rabbi Yehuda lo savala Rabbi. You're right. That's the way it goes. Rabbi agrees with Rabbi Yehuda about the Sar HaMishtalech being mechaper for all the sins, and then they again, which we'll discuss in just a minute. But the Reisha, which is Rabbi saying that Yom Kippur will be mechaper even without tshuva, that's not Rabbi Yehuda. So again, just to not get confused, our conversation right now, take the Sar Mishalech out of it for a second, we'll get to it. Our conversation right now, the Gemara has established that Rabbi Yehuda is amongst the majority of people which say that Yom Kippur will not be mechaper without tshuva, even for all other sins, for sure kavachomer for these 3 sins. And Rabbi is of the opinion that Yom Kippur by itself will be mechaper without tshuva, except for these 3 sins. Says the Gemara, Titania, we see clearly over here that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold like Rabbi. That means that Rabbi Yehuda holds that Yom Kippur will not be mechaper without tshuva. Yachol yehei Yom Kippur mechaper al shavim v'she'ein on shavim. You might think the Yom Kippur is mechaper if you do tshuva, and if you don't do tshuva, v'dinhu. Now this is not a din. And I said in the first year that this is not a din. This is not a kavachomer. And somebody said very nicely that the art scroll says this is a, what does he quote it? Vidinu. It doesn't say it's a kavachomer. What does he call it? A logical deduction. Usually we say Vidinu is a kavachomer, but you see in a second this is not a kavachomer. Vidinu. Hoil v'chatas v'asham mechaprin v'yom kippurim mechaper. It's a logical deduction that Yom Kippur will be mechaper for both, or that you would have thought it's mechaper both. Why? Because a chatos and an asham that you bring is mechaper, and Yom Kippurim is also mechaper. Ma chatos ve'asham ein mechaper mela halal shavim. You might have thought that Yom Kippur is mechaper even without tshuva, but we know that Yom Kippur brings kapara, and a korban chatos b'shogeg and an asham for certain cases bring, so they bring kapara, just like the chatos and the asham only bring kapara. But they only bring kapara el ala shavim, as the pasuk clearly says. If you look at Rashi 10 lines down on the right, v'hisvadu es chatasam v'hisvada asher chata leha, that they only bring kapara if you do tshuva. So too, af Yom Kippurim ein mechaper el ala shavim. Logical deduction tells us that if a chatas and an asham only bring kapara when you do tshuva, so then for sure the Yom Kippur will also only bring kapara when you do tshuva. Then the Gemara says you can't make a comparison to chatas and asham. But a chatas v'asham are only mechaper for shogeg. Tomar liyom kippurim shemechaper al hamezid kishogeg. You're going to say the same thing by Yom Kippurim that's mechaper on mezid like shogeg? I don't understand. Yom Kippur is much stronger than the chatas and asham. Just because a chatas and asham cannot be mechaper when there's no tshuva doesn't mean that Yom Kippur shouldn't be able to be mechaper. Yom Kippur is stronger. Yom Kippur can be mechaper even for mezid. So of course Yom Kippur could be mechaper even without tshuva. Says the Gemara, "Ho mechaper lamezid kishogeg yichaper al shavim v'she'enat shavim." So your logical deduction from chatas and asham is a bad logical deduction. Therefore, one would suggest that what? That Yom Kippurim would be able to be mechaper even without tshuva. Says the Gemara, "Talmud lomar ach chalak." Therefore, it says by Yom Kippur, ach be'asor lachodesh hazeh. What's ach? Ach is a miyut. So be'asor lachodesh hazeh is Yom Kippurim hu mikra kodesh yelachem. It's going to be a kapara for you. However, ach is a miyud. Ach is a something that limits. So it's going to limit the fact that it's mechaper, but it's only going to be mechaper if you do tshuva. So who's that? Stam sifra money. Who's a stam sifra? This is a sifra. Sifra is actually Torah's kohanim. That's the medrash on Vayikra. Rabbi Yehuda. That's Rabbi Yehuda, which is perfect, because what we were just saying. We were saying Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that Yom Kippur will not be mechaper unless you do tshuva, and that's what we see from the word ach. So how do I know? If I ask you, Yom Kippur is not mechaper because of the word ach. V'ka'amar shavim in, lo shavim lo. The only problem is that we have another stam sifra, and the halach is that stam sifras, if they're both Rabbi Yehuda, then they can't contradict each other. V'rami stam sifra, stam sifra. D'Tanya, we have another stam sifra. Again, stam means that there's nobody quoted in there. Yachol lo yehei Yom Kippur mechaper elim keni sanebo v'kara mikra kodesh lo asabo malacha. You might think the Yom Kippur is only mechaper if you fast and you call it a mikra kodesh and you don't do malacha, i.e., what's that called? Doing tshuva, because you take it seriously. Lo isanubo, if you don't fast, v'lo kara mikra kodesh v'asabo malacha. How do you know you're going to be mechaper even if you're not such a good boy or good girl on Yom Kippur? Talmud lomar Yom Kippurim hu mikol makom. You see that Yom Kippur is mechaper mikol makom. So on one end you have a stam mishnah or a stam sifra that says that you don't need to do tshuva. On the other end, it says you need to do tshuva. They can't both be Rabbi Yehuda, but they're both stam. Says the Gemara, Marbai lo kasha haRebbi v'haRebbi Yehuda. So I think what the Gemara here is saying, it's not clear. Rashi's not here to help me out, but I think what the Gemara is saying is that maybe it's not so pashut that a stam mishnah or a stam sifra is Rabbi Yehuda. This stam sifra is Rabbi, the one that says you don't need to do tshuva, and this stam sifra is Rabbi Yehuda. Rava Amar Hava haRebbi. This is fascinating. Rava says both are Rebbe. I don't understand. How could both be Rebbe? One says that you need tshuva in order for Yom Kippur to be mechaper, and one says you don't need tshuva for Yom Kippur to be mechaper. Umo de Rebbe bekares diyoma. And Rebbe agrees by kares diyoma. What does that mean? That means Rebbe says Yom Kippur is mechaper, you don't need to do tshuva. However, Rebbe agrees that if on Yom Kippur you do one of the sins that are chayiv kares, i.e., you do malacha on Yom Kippur, or you do eating on Yom Kippur, then, and only then, will Yom Kippur not be able to be mechaper. So when he says that Yom Kippur is mechaper, even without tshuva, that's for any sins that you did up until Yom Kippur, and even sins that you do on Yom Kippur that are not chayiv kares. When he says that Yom Kippur will not be mechaper without tshuva, that's for a sin that you do on Yom Kippur that's chayiv kares. You got to be pretty bad for that. So for that, according to Rebbe, you got to be pretty bad to not be able to have Yom Kippur be mechaper. And that needs to be the case, because if that's not the case, then what? Kares the Yom Kippurim l'Rabbi Lesley. If Rebbe held that Yom Kippur was mechaper through and through across the board, then you would never have a case. Then what's the Torah telling me that if you do X, Y, Z on Yom Kippur, if you eat on Yom Kippur, if you go and you do malach on Yom Kippur, you're going to get kares. According to Rebbe, it's never going to happen, because you're going to go ahead and as soon as you get it, boom, you're mechaper. Says the Gemara, Allah malo. Understand? That's not a good question. That's not a good proof. You can still have kares according to Rebbe. What? Mishkachas la kigon to avad belele v'meis lo asa yamama lekipure le. This is fascinating. I don't know if this is halacha l'maisa, but he's saying over here that the night of Yom Kippur is not mechaper. The only kapara of Yom Kippur comes during the day. Makes me very uneasy now. Yom Kippur night, and all of a sudden now I'm not going to be able to sleep Yom Kippur night. But it sounds like you're saying Yom Kippur night. You're not supposed to sleep Yom Kippur night. Okay, I wasn't talking about myself. I stay up all night learning anyway. But I'm saying the regular people who aren't staying up saying Tehillim and learning all night, you should be a little bit nervous because it says that the day of Yom Kippur is mechaper. So you'll have kares according to Rebbe anyway. So you have no proof. Again, the whole reason that he said it needs to be like this is because otherwise there's no kares. There is kares according to Rebbe. Ela ema. Rather, what do we see? Kares the Yamama l'Rebbe Lesse. Rather, it comes up that there's no kares during the day of Yom Kippur, according to Rebbe. It means we found that there's kares at night, but now there's no kares during the day. And the Gemara is not comfortable saying that either. Is that true? Alam alo. The Gemara says no. Mashkach to achal umsa v'chanke v'meis. If you eat food or a piece of raw meat on Yom Kippur and you choke in the process and die, that's the case where there's what? That's where there is kares, because there was no time for the day to be mechaper. Or inami the achal samach l'shkias achamat l'avashus l'kipurei leit. You're mamish a guy that wants to be morid b'malchus. So what do? You wait till a minute before Ne'ilah. You say, I'm going to eat right before Shkia on Yom Kippur day, not the day before Yom Kippur, not by Kol Nidre, Ne'ilah, and I want to eat right before Shkia so that there's not enough time in the day in order to go ahead and get kapara. Again, doesn't necessarily mean you did it on purpose. But if you happen to eat right before the end of the day, then Lamaisa you'll have kares. So again, we found that there are cases of kares regardless. You were saying that it needs to be Hava Rebbe, and it must be Di'ilote Mahachi Kares Yom Kippurim LeRebbe Lesley. There I just showed you 3 cases where there is kares on Yom Kippur, at least 2 cases during the day where there's going to be kares on Yom Kippur anyway. Therefore, it sounds like we're rejecting Rava and we're sticking with Abaye, HaRebbe, v'HaRebbe Yehuda. The assumption is that he's going to get kares before the next Yom Kippur. No. You don't necessarily. Again, it doesn't mean that you're going to. Again, you don't always die. When we say that Yom Kippur is mechaper, there are people who die during. What happens if somebody dies? Right.
So we don't know what's happening.
We don't know what's happening up there because there are people who die on Yom Kippur who don't eat on Yom Kippur.
But you could do tshuva even for kares.
You could do tshuva for kares, correct?
He doesn't die within 365 days.
And he didn't do tshuva.
And he does tshuva because next year he doesn't do this particular.
Right.
He's done.
Maybe, I don't know.
According to Rebbe, if he didn't die, if he didn't die during the course of the whole year.
No, but according to Rebbe, according to Rebbe, right, if it's not one of the 3 things. However, the question is again, I don't know if I want to mess with what does that mean to be porek o. I don't know, to me eating right before Shkia on eating right before Shkia on Yom Kippur day is probably could be in the parsha being porek o. Like I don't care about this stuff. That's the problem. He agrees that there are going to be 3 sins you're going to get kares for regardless unless you do tshuva. The question is how do you define what porek o means? How do you define what megala panim bator is, and how do you define? That's the problem. Is that those are very general things to say that I'm a person who's porek o, that I'm kofer be'ikar. Are you a kofer be'ikar if you go ahead eating on Yom Kippur and dafka you eating on Yom Kippur right before Shkia? Yeah. So then, according to him, if he lives a year, according to Rebbe, he will get kares. Maybe not that year, but he'll get kares at some point. Yeah, maybe. It's a good point. You could always do tshuva.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Rabbi, you're becoming too intellectual so early in the morning. Okay, it's a good question though. I don't know exactly how it works. I'll let you know. Echad Yisrael ve'echad Kohen ve'echad Kohen Mashuach. So if you still have my chart, I'm not sure it's going to help you, but the bottom line is that I want to go through this because I want to make sure that everybody understands it, like we always do. Haguf Akasha. We asked this question. I'm not sure the chart's going to help you, but Haguf Akasha. Ketani. We asked this already on Beis and Beis. Echad Yisrael ve'echad Kohen ve'echad Kohen HaMashuach. V'hadar Tani, we said everybody's in the same parsha. And then we said, Ma bein Yisrael leKohanim leKohen HaMashuach. Rabbi Yehuda Hachi Kamar. And if you remember, here's what we said. Hachi Kamar. Echad Yisrael ve'echad Kohanim ve'echad Kohen HaMashuach. Mischaprin b'sar mishtaleach b'shar averos. Just as an introduction, we're going to be discussing 3 different korbanos now, or 3 different animals. We're going to call the sar ha-mishtaleach that's sent out la'azazel over the cliff. That's one. The other, the pair of that, is a sar bifnim, which goes la Hashem, which is gone bifnim. And then the third one is going to be the par of the Kohen Gadol. Those are the three that we're discussing. The Sar that goes over the hill, over the Lazazel, over the cliff. The Sar that's the Panim of Yom HaKippurim, the inner Higot of Yom Kippur, that's La Hashem, which is the pair of Lazazel, right? They take two lots. And then the par of the Kohen Gadol.
This is not the Musaf.
Is not the Musaf one. No. That's the Chitzon. That's the one that gets on the Chitzon. Thank you. Rabbi Yehuda holds that by all other Averos, I don't know if you remember, by all other Averos besides for Mikdash v'Kachav, going into the Mikdash, reading Kodesh when you're Tameh, for all other Averos, Yisrael and Kohanim are on the same level. How are they going to be Mechaper? With the Sar HaMishtaleach. That's what he holds. Uma bein Yisrael leKohanim leKohen Mashuach. Where is there a difference between the Kohanim and the Jewish people? Ela shapar mechaper leKohanim atumas mikdash v'kadashav, and the Sayer Pnimi is going to be mechaper for the Jewish people. So if I wake you up tonight and I say, what's the difference? So the Jewish people are all together, including the Kohanim. They're all mechaper with the Sarah Mishtaleach LaZazel for all Averos in the Torah, except for Mikdash v'Kachav. In that case, the Kohanim are going to be with the par of the Kohen Gadol, and Yisrael is going to be with the Sar Pnimi, with the Sar La Hashem, as we'll refer to it. Umani, who is this? This is Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya, as it says, V'chiper es Mikdash HaKodesh. This is talking about the par and the Sar Pnimi, and it says what? V'chiper es Mikdash HaKodesh, ze lifnai v'lifnim. It's just using to tell us what are the different things that this could be mechaper for by Tumah. It's going to be mechaper this, whoever you are, whether Yisrael or a Kohen. Well, seemingly a Kohen's only a Kohen Gadol is going lifnai v'lifnim. But the Tumah that it's going to be mechaper for is all types of Tumah. Even if somebody goes into the Kodesh Kadashim, it's all moed zehechal. Mizbeach, even if you touch the Mizbeach, kimashmo. Yechaper elu azaros. Kohanim kimashmo. Amakal is elu Yisrael. Yechaper elu halaviyim. Says the Gemara, Hushvu kulan lekapara achas, shemischaprin bisar mishaleach b'shar averos. And Rashi points out that even though, look at the Rashi to the left, like 6 lines up, Hishvu kulan bekapara achas, b'ha yechaper basra, Hishva kohanim leviyim v'yisraelim. It says in the passage, V'kiper es mikdash hakodesh ves oal moed ves mizbeach yechaper, v'al kohanim v'al kol ha'am hakal yechaper. Milami shekula mischapim b'sar mishaleach b'shar averos te'ilu b'tumas mikdash v'kachav, which is what the pasuk is talking about. Leka lameimar dehushu. It's impossible to say that they're all equal. Sharei apar mechaper lakohanim v'sar apnim al Yisrael. Everybody agrees, as we'll see, not everybody, but we'll see that according to this, everybody agrees, yes, that the Sa'ir is mechaper for the Jewish people for Mikdash v'Kodesh, the Sar Pnimi, the Sar Lashem, and the par of the Kohen Gadol is mechaper for the Tumah and for the Tumah of the Kohanim. So therefore, it's not talking about that, because they're not Shaveh, the Jewish people and the Jewish people and the Kohanim are not Shaveh in that. Everybody agrees that they're going to be separate kaparas for the Tumas, Mikdash, v'Kodesh of the Jewish people and the Kohanim. Therefore, where is it being Hishvei Otam when it says Yichaper, all of them together? Says Rabbi Yehuda, it must be that they're all going to be together by other Averos. By other Averos, the Sar Mishtaleach will be mechaper for all of them. Rabbi Shimon argues, Kishem shedam Sar Anase bifnim mechaper al Yisrael atumas mikdash v'kachav, just like the Sar Anase bifnim is mechaper for the Jewish people for tumas mikdash v'kachav, kach dam apar mechaper al kohanim atumas mikdash v'kachav. That's what he agrees with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon agree that the par will do for the Kohanim what the Sayer Lashem will do for the Jewish people by Mikdash HaKachav. That he agrees with. However, what he disagrees with is Keshem Shevido Shel Sar Mishtaleach Mechaper Yisrael B'Shar Averos. Just like you hold that the Sar Mishtaleach works for all other Averos, but you say that it's for the Yisrael and for the Kohanim, I hold Kach Vidoy Shel Par Mechaper Kohanim B'Shar Averos. I hold that the Vidoy of the par of the Kohen Gadol will work for Shar Averos. So what's the Nekudas HaMachlokes here? Everybody agrees that the Sar HaMishtaleach is going to go ahead and be mechaper. Everybody agrees, that the par will be mechaper for Mikdash v'Kachav of the Kohanim. Everybody agrees that the Sar Lashem will be mechaper for the Mikdash and Kachav of the Jewish people. Everybody agrees that the Sar Mishtaleach will be mechaper for the other Averos of Yisrael. So everybody agrees by Yisrael that the Sar Mishtaleach is other Averos, and the par and the Sar Lashem is going to be for Tumas Mikdash v'Kachav. Everybody agrees that the Kohanim are going to be mechaper with the par of the Kohen Gadol from Mikdash v'Kachav. The argument is whether the Kohanim will get their other Averos from the par of the Kohen Gadol. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the Kohanim will get their other Averos Kapara from the Sar HaMishtalech. That's the Nekudas HaMachlokes. And according to Rabbi Shimon, the Kohanim will get their other Averos from the par of the Kohen Gadol as well. That's the Machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda says that the Kohanim get all their other Averos from the Sar HaMishtalech, and Rabbi Shimon says that the Kohanim get all their other Averos from the par of the Kohen Gadol, just like they get their Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav from the par of the Kohen Gadol. That's the Nekudas HaMachlokes. So all you have to remember. Says the Gemara, Ulu Rabbi Shimon Havadei Hushvu. So according to Rabbi Shimon, were they equal? That means if the Jewish people are getting their kapara for all other averos from the Sar HaMishtaleach, and they're getting their kapara for Mikdash and Kodesh from the Sar Lashem, and the Kohanim, according to Rabbi Shimon, are getting all of their kaparas from the par. At least according to Rabbi Yehuda, they're sharing one thing in common. They're sharing the Sar Mishaleach for all the other Averos. But according to Rabbi Shimon, they're not sharing anything, because the Kohanim are getting everything from the par, while the Jewish people are getting from the Sar Mishaleach and the Sar Lashem. So what is this pasuk doing when we said that it's Hushvu Yechaper, that it's making them all equal? What are they equal for? Says the Gemara, it's not that they're equal in what gives them kapara, but they're equal in that they get kapara. My Hushvu, the B'nei Kapara Ninu, Miu Kochad V'chad Mechaper B'denashe. They're equal in that they're all going to get kapara on Yom Kippur for all their sins and for Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav. What they're not equal in is how they're going to get kapara. My Taima de Rabbi Shimon. Why does Rabbi Shimon say that the Kohanim have to get everything from the par as opposed to the Jewish people? Because he says that there are two sirim. Itka Sar Mishtalech L'Sar Nase Bifnim. The Sar HaMishtalech is the same as the Sar that's done Bifnim. What does that mean? Masar Nase Bifnim Eino Mechaper Ala Kohanim Atumas Mikdash V'Kachav Dichtiv Be'asher La'am. By the Sar HaNase Bifnim, it says that it's Asher La'am, and that's for the Jewish people for Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav. Af Sar HaMishtalech Eino Mechaper Ala Kohanim B'Shar Averos. It means everybody agrees that for Mikdash and Kachav, the Sar Lashem is going to be for the Jewish people and not for the Kohanim, because everybody agrees that for the Kohanim, the Parshal Kohen Gadol is going to be Mechaper. So he makes a Hekesh and he says that just like the Sar of Lashem is going to be only for the Jewish people, so therefore the Sar HaMishaleach is only going to be for the Jewish people as well. That's what he says. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, the connection between the Sar Mishalech and the Sar Lashem is not to say that if you have one, you have the other, and if you don't have one, you don't have the other. Rather, it's to tell you, Yushavim b'marav v'koma v'damim hu da'asa. And that's how we paskin. That the two Sars, the Sar Mishalech and the Sar Lashem, which is why it was so hard, they had to be exactly the same height, exactly the same looks, exactly the same weight, exactly the same everything. One was Lashem and one was Azazel. And hashkafically, what many say is that to show you that each and every one of us has two paths in life. You have exactly the same. Nobody can tie now. I have this circumstance, this circumstance. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives you two paths right in front of you. They're exactly the same. You can go to the right and you can go to the left, and that's it. So there we go again. We're not going to stop here, but this is just before we conclude. This is where we're holding now. Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda all agree by the Jewish people. They agree that the Sar Mishalech is going to be mechaper for all of their averos, and the Sar Lashem is going to be mechaper for Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav. They all agree that by the Kohanim, the partial Kohen Gadol is going to be mechaper for the Mikdash and Kachav. They disagree how the Kohanim are going to be mechaper for all of their other sins. Rabbi Yehuda says with the Sar Mishalech, like the Jewish people, and that's the Hekesh, and Rabbi Shimon says no, it's going to be with the par of the Kohen Gadol as well. I wonder if Rabbi Shimon would learn from elsewhere that the two paros or that the two serum have to be exactly the same. Not clear, but we learn it from there. Says the Gemara, Man tanala de tana Rabbanan. By the inner he-goat, which is the Sar HaPnimi, which again is being mechaper for Mikdash V'Kachav of the Jewish people. V'shachad et tzir achatas asher la'am. She'ein ha-kohanim mischaperim bo. We know that the Kohanim, again, who is the one who says this? That the Kohanim will not be mechaper by the Sa'ir of Yom Kippur, the Sa'ir HaPnimi. Who says this? Well, seemingly everybody says this, because everybody agrees that the Kohanim will not be mechaper for Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav from the Sa'ir HaNasa B'fnim. She'ena Kohanim mischaperim bo, uvameh miskaperin, but how are they mechaper? So everybody agrees, b'para shel Aaron, with the power of Aaron. That makes sense. Again, we said the inner he-goat is for the Jewish people, and the power shel Aaron is for the Kohanim. This is where it gets a little bit confusing. Yachol lo yiskapu b'para shel Aaron. It's possible to suggest, though, again, we're saying that by the Sar HaChatas, it says specifically Asher La'am. Who's Asher La'am? That's for the Jewish people, for the Yisraelim. So the inner he-goat, we're talking about the Mikdash and Kachav now, the inner he-goat will be La'am. So now, how are the Kohanim going to get a kapara for Mikdash V'Kachav? So we're saying they're going to get it from the par of the Kohen Gadol. The problem is that in the power of the Kohen Gadol, Sharei Kvar Ne'amar Asher Lo. By the power of the Kohen Gadol, it says, V'kriv Aaron es parachatas Asher Lo. It's his, which implies that it's his and only his. Says the Gemara, Me'ata ein lehen kapara. Right now, they don't have any kapara, because it's Asher Lo. Now, 1 second. I just want to, again, it's a little confusing, but they don't have any kapara. Right now, we're talking about they don't have any kapara for what? That they don't have any kapara for Mikdash v'Kachav. But really, within Rabbi Shimon, as the Gemara is going to suggest in a second, they don't have any kapara at all. Because at least Rabbi Yehuda says that they'll still, even if you learn this pasuk of Asher Lo, that it's dafka by Aaron, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that pasuk of Asher Lo is only for what? Is only for Tumas Mikdash v'Kachav for the Kohanim. Because the other Averis will be learned, will be the Sar Mishaleach. But according to Rabbi Shimon, he's got all of his money in this one pasuk. Because according to him, this power of the Kohen Gadol is not only going to be mechaper for Tumas Mikdash v'Kachav, it's going to be mechaper for all of the Averis of the Kohanim. But at this point, the Gemara is asking just on the par, that if it says Asher Lo Me'ata Ein Lahen Kapara, now the Kohanim have no kapara, because you wanted to suggest that they're going to get their kapara at least by Tumas Mikdash v'Kachav according to everybody, and even by all the other Averis according to Rabbi Shimon from this pasuk. But it says Asher Lo, that this power is dafka for Aaron HaKohen. What do? Kishehu Omer Yechaper Al HaKohanim Matzinu Lahen Kapara. So if you want to suggest, you're right, the Kohanim don't get any type of kapara at all, but the other pasuk that we quoted says V'al HaKohanim, that the Kohanim get kapara. So where are they getting kapara from? Says the Gemara, you're telling me on one end that Kohanim get kapara. Now the problem is you have two psukim. One pasuk says Asher La'am, that the Mikdash v'Kachav is going to be, the Pnimi is going to be for the Jewish people, and the other pasuk says the power is going to be for Aaron HaKohen. So you have no pasuk that's telling me that the Kohanim are getting kapara. Says the Gemara, B'mehein meschaprin. You have a choice now. The Gemara is basically saying we're stuck in a corner. We have two psukim. One pasuk says Asher La'am, that the Chatas Pnimi is going to be La'am, it's going to be Mechaper for Mikdash v'Kachav. The other pasuk says that it's Asher La'aron, that something's going to be Mechaper, the power is going to be Mechaper for Aaron and only Aaron. We're stuck now because we have a third pasuk that says that the Kohanim get kapara. If we didn't have that third pasuk, we would just say Kohanim are on a higher level, they don't get any kapara. Clearly they have to get kapara. So which one of the two are we better off? Are we better off squeezing them in to where it says Asher La'am? Or are we better off squeezing them into the pasuk that says Asher Lo? That's for Aaron. Says the Gemara, B'mehin meschaprin, Mutav sheyischapru b'parashal Aaron, sharei hutar miklalo eitzel beitzo, val yischapru b'sor hanasa b'fnim, shalo hutar michlalo eitzel beitzo. What does that mean? Shalo hutar michlalo eitzel beitzo. It means if you keep reading the pasuk, hutar means that it takes it out from the klal. The pasuk by Aaron says, V'hikriv Aaron es parachatas Asher Lo. But the end of the pasuk says, "V'chiper ba'ado uve'ad beiso." So it gave a general rule that it's only for Aaron, but right afterwards it said, well, you know what, we're not so clear, we're not so stark about that. It's for Aaron, but it's also for his bias. So once you started to give us, you know how it is, once you give somebody a little bit of wiggle room, that's it, you're dead. So you go over here and you say Asher Lo, you don't give them any wiggle room, they had nothing to do, they were stuck. Once you say, oh, well, it's not really just for him, it's for his bias as well, now I'm comfortable to suggest, well, it's not just for him, it's for his bias as well, and it's not just for his bias, it's for all of the Kohanim as well. That's what the Torah says, as opposed to by the other pasuk of Asher La'am. It doesn't say Asher La'am and not for anybody else or for other people. It just gives that statement for the Jewish people. That implies for the Jewish people and only for the Jewish people and not for the Kohanim. The Imnav Shach Lomar. And the Gemara says, if you don't like this line of reasoning, I'll give you another proof that the Kohanim are included in Aaron's par. Because we say, Hareyu Omer, we say in Tehillim, Beis Aharon Baruch Es Hashem, Beis HaLevi Baruch Es Hashem, Yirei Hashem Baruch Es Hashem. Who's Yirei Hashem Baruch Es Hashem? The Yisraelim. Who's Beis HaLevi Baruch Es Hashem? The Leviim. Who's Beis Aharon? The Kohanim. So even if you want to go and you say you don't like this logic, Lamaisa, when it says v'chiper ba'ado uvi'ad beiso, it's clearly mefurish in the pasuk that the Kohanim are going to be included in that power as well. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they'll be included only for Tumas Mikdash v'Kachav, because again, they'll be included with the Sar Mishtaleah for all the other Averos, and within Rabbi Shimon, they'll be included not only for this Tumah Mikdash v'Kachav, they'll be included for all of their sins. Well, it's a pasuk. It's a pasuk in Tanakh. What? It's a pasuk in Tanakh. Yeah, we just need to prove that Bnei Aaron are part of, that the Kohanim are part of Beis Aaron. Yeah. So Gemara says, Man Tana. Who is this Tana? This is how we're going to end. Who is this Tana? This Tana basically said the following. This Tana said that, again, what do we see clearly in this? All we see in this brisa is that what? We see that the Jewish people are going to get kapara from Mikdash and Kachav through the Sayir La Hashem, and the Kohanim are going to get it from the par of the Kohen Gadol. Who is that? Well, really, that's both opinions. Because we said the only thing that they argue about is by the Sha'ar Averos. So the Gemara first suggests, Rabbi Yirmiyah delo Rabbi Yehuda. De'i Rabbi Yehuda ha'amar kohanim yeshlen kapara b'sara mishtaleach. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the kohanim have kapara with the sara mishtaleach. Okay, so why does that affect anything? So the way that the Gemara is reading it, look at Rashi for a second. Mantana, you see the Rashi, third to last Rashi. It's a little bit complicated, but Mantana, I tried to set you up for this. Mantana laha masnisa diktani me'ata ein lehen kapara. In the middle of that Mishnah, it suggested that at this point, if you don't learn from Aaron, then the Kohanim have no kapara. And the way that the Mishnah is learning that is demashmadim lo bepar yischapru ein lehen kapara klal. That implies that if they don't learn from Aaron, you can learn two things from there. If I say to you that if you don't learn from that pasuk of Aaron, then the Kohanim have no kapara, either that can mean that if you don't learn from the pasuk of Aaron, then the Kohanim have no kapara at all, or you could say that if the Kohanim aren't learned from the pasuk of Aaron, then they have no kapara by the Mikdash v'Kachav, but they still have kapara from the Sarah Mishtaleach for the rest of their sins. So at this point, the Gemara is learning it the first way. The Gemara is learning it that when it says that if the Kohanim did not go ahead and get kapara from the par, then they wouldn't have any kapara at all. Who is that? That's not Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda says that if they didn't get kapara from Aaron's par, they would still have kapara for all of their other sins from the Sarah Mishtaleach. That's how the Gemara is learning right now. Diloka Rabbi Yehuda, Elok Rabbi Shimon, Damar Koka Razayin Bepar Tluyos. The Rabbi Yehuda, Inami lo mechapri bepar, islu kapar mias besar mishalea b'shar averos. That's how Rashi reads. So it says the Gemara. Diloka Rabbi Yehuda, Di Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Kohanim Yeshan kapar besar mishalea umani. Rava Umani, and who's that? Rava Ma Rabbi Shimon to Amar Kohanim Elam Kapar B'Sam Shalech. Abaye says no, like I'm saying. Afilu Tema Rabbi Yehuda. You could even say it's Rabbi Yehuda. And how do you read this Mishnah? Hachi Kamar Me'ata Ein Lehem Kapar B'Tumas Mikdash V'Kadshav. That if they don't get kapara from the pasuk of Aaron, then they won't have any kapara from what? For Tumas Mikdash V'Kadshav. But they'll still have kapara for their other averos from the Sar Mishtaleach. Kishehu Omer Yechaper Lakohanim Matzinu Sheyesh Lem Kapara Bishar Averos. So how are you going to learn now if they don't have kapara from Aaron and they have kapara for other averos? What are you going to say? Now you're going to have a svara that's going to say Kimo de Matzinu Sheyesh Lem Kapara Bishar Averos Kasha Kach Yesh Lem Kapara Bitumas Mikdash V'Kachav. Then you'll have a svara. If you tell me that we see that according to Rabbi Yehuda you have the svara. Again, according to Rabbi Shimon you're stuck. Because according to Rabbi Shimon, where everything's being learned from the par, then you have to go in and say, well, if they don't get, if you're not going to learn the Kohanim from that pasuk of Aaron, then you're stuck because he's putting all of his money into that one basket. He's putting all of his money and say we're learning everything from that pasuk. He's saying we're learning that they're going to get Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav Kapara and they're going to get all their averos from there. So once you say that that's not the Kohanim, now we're really stuck. We end up answering that it is the Kohanim. We end up answering the thing that it is the Kohanim, because once it says Ba'ado V'Abeso, once it makes exceptions, now we can include all the Kohanim. Or we say because Beis Aaron, but originally in the Havamina, he was going to be stuck, as opposed to Rabbi Yehuda, who would not have been stuck. Rabbi Yehuda would have been stuck that he had nothing to be mechaper for the Kohanim, for Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav, he would have only had them for the Sar HaMishaleach. And then the Gemara says, but within Rabbi Yehuda, he would have been okay, because then he would have said, well, since we see that they have kapara, by all other averos from the Shar HaMishtaleach, so then, by definition, by Svara, they'll have kapara for the Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav as well. But again, it comes out that you can learn this either within Rabbi Yehuda or not within Rabbi Yehuda. And again, it comes out that the Nekudas HaMachlokas, again, we're important to remember, the Nekudas HaMachlokas is only by the Kohanim, by all other averos. Everybody agrees that the Jewish people, by all their other averos, get the Sar Mishtaleach. Everybody agrees that the Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav of the Jewish people will be the Sar Nasa B'Fnim. Everybody agrees that the Kohanim, by their Tumas Mikdash V'Kachav, will be the power of the Kohen Gadol. The only machlokas is by the other averos of the Kohanim. According to Rabbi Shimon, it will be from the power of the Kohen Gadol as well. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, it will also be from the Sar Mishtaleach, just like the Jewish people.